Hey kid, my name is Rocky Bottom, world famous big wave hunter and surfer. Pastor Steve has asked me to host this week's Sunday school. I guess the reason he asked me is my relentless search for perfection. In reality, there's nothing in the world that's perfect except God and His love for us. But that still doesn't keep me from hunting for the perfect wave to surf. Speaking of surfing, let's do some soul surfing and worship with Dino and the Dynamos.
I'm going soul surfing cause the story is true. You see, he suffered and he rose like he said he would do. I'm stepping from the sand with the word in my hand and a foolproof passage to the promised land. And I'm surfing, I'm going soul surfing. I'm going soul surfing cause it's more than a ride, and I wanna catch my buddies on the other side. I chase a lot of breakers for the perfect wave, but today I'm looking around for a soul to save. Well, the surf's up and the soul's aroused. The word is hip and I wanna shout. The surf's up and the souls are going astray. So cowabunga baby now. The surf's up and the soul's around. The word is hip and I wanna shout. The surf's up and the souls are going astray. So cowabunga baby, he's the way. I'm going soul surfing. I'm going soul surfing while I'm burning a tan. Gonna cruise along the shore with a spiritual plan. I spent the end of summer in a radical groove, but today I'm copacetic when I'm making my move. Well, the surf's up and the soul's around. The word is hip and I wanna shout. The surf's up and the souls are going astray. So cowabunga baby now. The surf's up and the soul's around. The word is hip and I wanna shout. The surf's up and the souls are going astray. So cowabunga baby, he's the way. I'm going soul surfing. Soul surfing. I'm going soul surfing cause it's more than a ride, and I wanna catch my buddies on the other side. I chased a lot of breakers for the perfect wave, but today I'm looking round for a soul to save. Go! The surf's up and the soul's around. The word is hip and I wanna shout. The surf's up and the souls are going astray. So cowabunga baby now. The surf's up and the soul's around. The word is hip and I wanna shout. The surf's up and the souls are going astray. So cowabunga baby, he's the way. I'm going soul surfing. I'm going soul surfing. I'm going soul surfing. I'm going soul surfing. Woo!
Now
This week, we learn how God's perfect world was ruined by the introduction of sin. Sin is when a person goes astray and leaves the right path. When looking for a perfect wave, a surfer's not only looking for the nice big wave, but also the right path in the wave. Bad things happen when a surfer leaves the right path. The same is true when people don't do things God's way. Let's take a look at this week's lesson and see what happens when the first two people go astray and leave God's path.
God gave the first two people a beautiful garden to call home. He gave them everything they needed, and He gave them a command. God said, "You may eat from any of the trees in the garden, except for one." The garden had a tree in it called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God warned the man, "If you eat from that tree, you will die." Now, the serpent was the most cunning of all the animals. One day, the serpent went to the woman. "Did God really say you can't eat from any tree in the garden?" he asked. The woman answered, "We can eat the fruit from the trees in the garden, but God told us not to eat from the tree in the middle of the garden. He said if we eat the fruit or touch it, we will die." "No, you will not die," the serpent lied. "You will be like God, knowing good and evil." The woman looked at the fruit. It did look delicious, and she wanted to be wise. So she took some of the fruit and ate it. She also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it. Then their eyes were opened, and they knew that they were naked. So they sewed together fig leaves and made clothes for themselves. That evening, the man and his wife heard God walking in the garden. They hid among the trees. God called out to the man, "Where are you?" The man said, "I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." "Who told you that you were naked?" God asked. "Did you eat from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" The man blamed his wife. "She gave me some of the fruit from the tree, and I ate it," he said. The woman blamed the serpent. "He tricked me," she said. God said bad things would happen. Life would be hard and painful, all because of sin. But God promised that one of the woman's descendants would destroy the serpent. God made those first people, Adam and Eve, clothes out of animal skins and sent them out of the garden. God put angels and a sword of fire at the entrance of the garden to guard the way to the tree of life. Ever since Adam and Eve sinned, all people have been sinners. Our sin separates us from God, but God still loves us. God promised a rescuer would come from Eve's family. God sent His Son, Jesus, to rescue people from sin and bring them back to God.
God had given Adam and Eve everything they needed for a perfect life and an eternal relationship with Him. But Satan, disguised as a serpent, tempted Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the only tree that God had commanded them not to eat the fruit. Thinking it would make them like God, they ate. Sin entered the world. Adam and Eve realized they weren't dressed and tried to hide from God. I guess they didn't know you can't hide from God. Since they disobeyed God, He sent them out of the garden where they would have to work the land for the food they needed. But because God loves His people, He had a plan that would eventually bring all people back to the right path and restore relationship with Him. And that's through His Son, Jesus. And I would say that is worthy of our praise and worship.
Jesus had the attitude, He made us number one. For being the same as God. showed us how to love, he couldn't leave us all alone. He left his throne now. You gotta have a right-dude attitude. It's a right-dude attitude. It's a can-do-do attitude. It's an attitude of gratitude, a right-dude attitude. He made himself a man, he came to wipe our tears away, and headed for the cross without a single word to say. So now his claim is higher, ain't another the same. So fall upon your knees and everybody praise his name. He took the blame now. You gotta have a right-dude attitude. It's a right-dude attitude. It's a can-do-do attitude. It's an attitude of gratitude, a right-dude attitude. It's a right-dude attitude. It's a right-dude attitude. It's a right-dude attitude. It's a right-dude attitude. Yeah. You gotta have a right-dude attitude. It's a right-dude attitude. It's a can-do-do attitude. It's an attitude of gratitude, a right-dude attitude. It's a right-dude attitude. It's a can-do-do attitude. It's an attitude of gratitude, a right-dude attitude.
Well, it's time for me to get back to hunting that perfect wave to ride. Remember that we already have a perfect path for an eternal relationship with God. It's through His Son, Jesus. Have a great week and stay on God's path. And remember what Pastor Steve always says, God loves you and so do I. Cowabunga, dude.